Hey guys, you are welcome back again to my channel. Good morning, my amazing people. Good afternoon, good evening. I greet you all according to your time. I remain your favorite baby girl, Anointed Lady TV. If you are new to this channel, you are highly welcome. And if you are returning subscribers, thank you very much for always coming back. And if you just subscribe, you are welcome to this channel. And if you have been watching me, you've not subscribed, what are you waiting for, guys? Please kindly hit that red button where they will subscribe, and also put on the notification bell so you'll be getting more updates from this channel. Let's watch this video, guys.
Because the one thing Nigerians have agreed upon almost with unanimity, even our rulers who have afflicted us, they mouth it. Everybody agrees that where we are is not sustainable. But we have conflicting visions as to where we should be going and how we can get there. When you have laid bare, as much as I sought to lay bare, the vile nudity of the Nigerian state, it became a matter of extreme importance that I must offer a way forward if the book was not to end up being just another compilation of Nigerian mysteries and pains. Bellyaching is not an alternative for governance or for a vision. So it wasn't sufficient that I bellyached, and I bellyached sufficiently in the book. I lamented a lot about several things Nigerian. But ultimately, I offered a way forward. And for me, the importance of that is that even as crazy as the situation might appear to be now, history has taught me that ultimately, at the end of every round of madness, men eventually sit down to talk to each other, and then they look at the different ideas that might be available to take them forward. So Do Not Die in Their War is an attempt at diagnosing the Nigerian problem, or problems as the case might be, and then profiling a way forward to take us away from where we are. We've all agreed it's not the place we want to be. The next thing is, how do we go to where we were going? I've offered a way forward.
When you were talking, you mentioned something. You said you wanted to call Nigeria, you wanted to say nation, but you're like, you're reluctant to call it a nation. Why? What is Nigeria if Nigeria is not a nation, and why do you think it's not a nation?
Well, I had a 12-year stint in the university system. The earlier part of that was spent seeking to pick up a degree in English language and linguistics. It's left me with a lifelong predilection, and that is the fact that I love linguistic exactitude. When you use a word, it must mean exactly what it is intended to mean by the native speakers of the word. The word nation cannot by any stretch of the imagination apply to the Nigerian state. The Nigerian state is a collection of nations, several nations forced together willy-nilly without their consent by the white man for his own purposes. In 1960, when we became a state, there was a process of agreement that brought the different ethnic nationalities, nations, into a state. And they came together on the basis of an agreement, which was the 1960 Constitution. A lot of Nigerians are blatantly unaware of their history. So when I get the opportunities such as the one you have offered me, I am left with no choice but to seek to break these things to granular, so that it becomes easier for them to understand.
Well, I appreciate it. Go ahead.
In 1951, there was a legislative council inaugurated in this country. That legislative council actually contains the kernel of Nigeria's problem, because it appropriated exactly half of its membership to what is referred to amorphously as the North. And then it breaks down the remaining, I believe it was 18 to the south, 18 to the east, 18 to the west, and 36 to what is generally referred to as the North. So right from the onset, when Nigerians began to have a voice in the governance of Nigeria, there was already a lopsided foundation. But that is something I don't want to go into now, so that in order not to confuse all of us. But the key thing you must understand is this: the formation of that council in 1951 laid the foundation for the way Nigeria was eventually structured up to the independence in 1960. How does this happen? It happened because, one, agreements were reached all from that 1951, but let me say as far back as 48, agreements were reached that determined the composition of the governments. And these agreements were reached with ethnic nationalities, even though they were the big threes, broken into the three regions that existed at the time. But there were sufficient concerns for the rights of the minorities. And before independence, I believe it must have been in 1957, the Willings Commission was set up to address the rights of the minorities, their concerns about marginalization within the larger regions. What is happening is that ethnic nationalities had voices, but citizenship had not emerged. But the ethnic nationalities were speaking as aggregations of the citizens. So at each point, our voices were being reckoned with in the creation and construction of the Nigerian state that emerged and became independent in 1960. It was an imperfect system, but it was an agreed system. There was a federation of 3 regions. Those 3 regions, following the Willings Commission report, created the Midwestern region out of the Western region. So there was further constitutional development after independence. So in 1963, there was a Republican Constitution of 1963, which removed the Queen as the titular head of Nigeria, and which also assured that a 4th region was created. So after the Igbo man had left, we had enough sense to sit down amongst ourselves, in spite of our differences. We further developed our constitution. We added a region. There were 2 more in the pipeline if the Willings Commission was to be followed through. Eventually, one was to come out of the north, another was to come out of the east. This never happened before the coup of 1966, January. That 1966 January coup was the excuse for the state hijack that we are all suffering today, because that was the last time the voices of Nigerians were ever heard in the governance of their country. So when you speak in terms of nations, it will be most fraudulent to refer to Nigeria as a nation, or to even stretch any imagination and refer to it as a federation, because it is anything but federal. It has become you can't even call it a unitary state. You'll be abusing the British, and you'll be giving unitarism a bad name. Nigeria has become more or less a feudal state. It's the modern iteration of the Sultanate. The governors are our emirs. So Nigerian nation, don't kill yourself. There is no such thing. There is no Nigerian nation. There is a failing Nigerian state. And there are several ethnic nationalities. Thank you. When you started out, you said, I am saying more or less the same things that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu says. And you're correct. I don't believe we don't really have much by way of differences, except perhaps one thing. There is a point of divergence. And the point of divergence is the point where Nnamdi speaks for Ndigbo and says, we are leaving Nigeria. Now, I am a man who do not accept the limitations of binary visions. And I am not the sort who believes in is always black or white. There are always shades.
Well, let me, by way of information, If you will listen to Nnamdi's interview with Dele Momodu, Chief Dele Momodu asked him, what if there was like, isn't there any other alternative you're willing to, consider? And then Nnamdi Kanu said, listen, if there was a referendum and the people voted, and majority of the people said, this is what we want to remain in the country called Nigeria, that he doesn't see anything wrong with it. He will go with the will of the people. But what he does not subscribe to is the fact that you will not even give the people an opportunity to decide what they want to be. I just wanted to throw that in.
No, fair enough. You see, very little disagreement of any sort, as far as I know, and I've said this on different occasions. My point of divergence, and this might be based on a misunderstanding, my point of divergence with any one of the IPOB people I have spoken with has been the point where I'm like, no, we have to first of all fail before we talk secession. But if Mazi is now saying, and I haven't heard, but I have, no, let me correct myself. Somebody had mentioned this before now and said, have you watched Mazi's interview with Dele Momodu? But I haven't.
I think you should. I think
I will. Actually.
You should, yeah.
But in all honesty, the minute secession is off the table and we are talking referendum, of course we should have referendum. Of course we should. There is no reason why we shouldn't. But you see, here is the danger. And this is what I'm always running away from, which is why I don't make it front and center in my discussions regarding Nigeria. And I'll take you back a little. Immediately after the NSAS protests were broken by the government, violently broken too, Kano State, remember that he had bottles of alcohol to break. Northern governors began to speak against SARS and talk about it as though it were to be something against Muhammadu Buhari. It is not by accident. Our people get easily distracted. It is because they have recognized that one of the ways of breaking nationalist movements is to introduce tribe and introduce religion. So they brought out the two at the same time. Now, don't forget that the common man in the northern part of Nigeria is as afflicted as every other Nigerian in every other part of Nigeria.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong. No. You're wrong, sir. No. You're wrong.
But let me hear you.
But so the reason why I say you're wrong. No. I will mention this and you will continue. The reason why I say, you just said that the citizen, the common man in the north, is as afflicted as the person in the west. But what it is that the common man in the north is actually more afflicted. That's what I was trying to tell you. Okay, so now you get it. You get it, eh? Okay, continue. So that's what I'm trying to say. They are even more afflicted than the ones in the west.
You're correct.
Go on, sir.
Completely correct.
Go on, sir.
You're completely correct. But you see, the unfortunate thing is that unlike those in the west or in the east or even the south,
yes,
he is unconscious of the extent of his exploitation.
Definitely.
He has had over 2 centuries, closer to about 3 centuries of having ignorance weaponized against him. And he carries a vote.
Yes, so.
And he is the one that they will harm because they turn him into a weapon based on the weaponized ignorance that they have already inflicted on him. And the weaponized ignorance does not travel alone. It comes with weaponized poverty. So not only is he ignorant, he is poor. I was speaking with a friend in Bauchi. We haven't met, but we met online. And we chat from time to time. Young Hausa man. At least that's what all of us foolish everybody up there, Hausas, even though several people. Anyway, So this young man was chatting with me and he said, so Buhari sent a minister to Bauchi to thank them for not joining the NSAS thing. So this young man got up and be like, no, you don't need to thank us. It's not that we don't want to join. But unlike those ones you see down south, we can't afford to be out for 3 days in a row protesting. We can't afford it. What would we eat if we block the roads for 3 days? We have to go out to get something to eat. So don't thank us. And don't worry, it's not that in fact, we don't even know. Our people don't know they need to be on the street protesting. So there is no need to thank us. So when you hear those kind of things, you begin to understand that when you focus attention on a demand for a referendum that is already couched in terms of a secession, successfully couched so, the man in the north, especially the one who is a member of the northern minority, what he is hearing is that you want to leave him in this bondage and run away. You can't go anywhere now. He will fight the toughest in the battle against such a referendum. But I am of the opinion, and I say this without discounting the grievances of the Igbo, who have for long been the chief recipient of Nigeria's wickedness. I can't quarrel with their demand, but that demand raises the specter of secession in everybody's mind. So I'm saying that instead of focusing solely on that, why not focus on a demand for an equitable Nigeria that is as just for the Igbo man as it is for the Yoruba man, as it is for the Bacha man or the Anang. If it is fair for everybody, surely it becomes that much more difficult for anyone to speak out against it. But if the focus is on a demand for a referendum that is a barely concealed demand for a secession, in the nobody begs to be given power. But surely, if you've done the same thing over and over and it's not working, you should try something new. Nigeria is 60 years old. We have never once in those 60 years had a single nationalist movement in Nigeria. The only time there was a putative attempt at nationalism in Nigeria since 1960, it was killed. That was in 1993. They murdered it. The only other attempt at it was based on a fraud, and that was in 2015. Why can't we try? Why is it so difficult to find a new nation out of this mess based on equity and justice? If a person now comes out, whether that is a person or an ethnic nationality, and says, no, you cannot have a nation that is based on equity and justice, it becomes easier to isolate such a group or person, and they become at that point automatically the enemy of everybody else. Because tell me, which person does not want justice? Sorry,
Oga Dele. What I would honestly, I feel your passion, and everybody, you will not understand the kind of love that people have for you. What I would suggest is that you watch that interview with Chief Dr. Dele Momodu, because that is a game changer. That's a game changer. I don't want us to dwell on Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and all that, because
I will watch it.
Watch it, and that will, because we need where that interview brought us to. It's in line with what you're saying. When you combine everybody's ideas, you see, for the first time, NSAS protest brought us closer to what we have been expecting to see, because it bound everybody together. And based on that, I want us to talk a little bit about what do you feel about NSAS and what the young people were able to achieve, and what the kind of wickedness that the Nigerian government meted out on its own children. I'm not even talking about citizens, on its own generation. There's the same generation that looked at everything that the government threw at them and decided to even forgive the government. The same generation that didn't ask them for money to organize what they organized, cooked for themselves, did everything. Let me leave you to just share your thoughts about NSAS.
NSAS effectively brought about the end of this decadent system. They might not realize it yet. You know, it's very funny. I think about 2-3 years ago, I posted something, I said something online. I said most of the time, the first shot in a war is rarely announced. Most of the time, people don't know. You know, those shots that were fired at the Tollgate on the 20th of October 2020 has brought down this decadent order.
I think so.
It might take days, it might take months, it might take years. That's in the hand of God. But what I know is this decadent order ended on the evening of 20th of October. The Nigerian army is a well-practiced killing machine when it comes to slaughtering innocent civilians. It has a long history of doing exactly what it did in Lekki. It has done it at Zakibiam. It has done it in Oti. It does it all over the southeast, almost all the time, with IPOB people. It's not new. It's been happening I saw it with my own eyes in 1993 when Abacha was going to take over. Men were killed like rodents and vermin on the Ikorodu road. It's nothing new. And if you're talking about the Nigerian army, what does one say about the Nigerian police? I've talked about how the Nigerian police is systematically starved in order to make sure that it is vicious. And it sees itself as the instrument for the preservation of the rulers, not as a citizen's police. So it is divorced from us. When you listen to the survivors' account in Lekki, you find that after the army had left, the police came afterwards.
Yes.
And then did a mop-up. The Premium Times report is pretty detailed.
I saw it.
But unfortunately, we live in a country where human life has no value. So when we talk about NSAS, there are several angles to the NSAS thing. But I have dealt with it from the metaphysical plane, and that is where I said, teke mene upasin. The kingdom has been taken from them, and I said that before God. This kingdom has been taken from them. You don't shed innocent blood with that level of impunity, and then deny their very humanity by continuing to deny their existence. That is evil, unadulterated evil. I say this: anyone who finds a peace with their conscience in relation to this, God will judge them. But me, I know something. Before God judges them, the people will judge them because there will be an account. There are too many people working in the employment of the Lagos State Health Management Authorities for them to be able to hide the number of casualties that were taken into public hospitals. So all this, they are demo, that they are busy. I have said all I need to say about that panel. That panel that they have set up, I triple dare them. Let them keep it on as they are doing now. They will be stripped naked by the time we are done with this. Because it is either we are a democracy or we have become a fascist state. But Buhari and Lagos State government and the Nigerian army cannot continue to pretend we are in a democracy and then be slaughtering people without account. That mask of democracy they are wearing, by the grace of God, will tear it off. They will either have to take off that mask or they would have to account for what they have done. So as far as the reality part is concerned, let me say this: nobody calls back a bullet that has been fired. NSAS was just a metaphor for a citizenship demand. They tell you are a citizen of the world. You probably carry a non-Nigerian passport, which allows you to travel as you please, because you are a citizen of a country. The Nigerian is not a citizen. His passport is certification of his slavery. Our rulers, they fight over themselves to carry the diplomatic passport because they know the evil that they have done to our green passport. We have a nation we can't be proud of. Did I say nation? We have a state that we cannot be proud of, one that is stupidly failing on a daily basis, and then because people carried flags and they are demanding a new nation, you now kill them, and you expect that we will keep quiet so we would accept that we are slaves. We should have kept up the illusion of citizenship and found a way, maybe even tear gas, buy a truckload of tear gas and choke people up and force them to get out of that place. But no, that wasn't good enough. It had to be guns bought with taxpayers' money, bullets bought with taxpayers' money, turned on citizens by soldiers. Those are not soldiers. We might not have been citizens, but those are not soldiers. You cannot tell a man he's a global citizen and then deny him citizenship in his own country. It doesn't add up, it doesn't make sense. It is clear that the Nigerian state has serious questions to answer. It is going to decide whether it is a state ruled by law, one that has citizens, or one that has none. Because nobody kills human beings the way Nigeria slaughters its citizens. Nobody kills human beings. You don't even kill goats like that. Where you are, in your Canada, America, and all those places, when those wild boys, when they go shooting with all those their guns and they kill animals, theirs, they put their hands in the blood. They anoint themselves. They bless the animal for the food it was going to provide for their family. That is an animal. Quran prescribes how you slaughter goats. The Bible prescribes how you slaughter goats. But in Nigeria, the Nigerian soldier, the Nigerian police, we are talking Lekki. Have you seen what happened in Mushi? Video, people can see it. They are sharing the. Did you see what happened in the Showon of Ogomosho's palace? Human life has been so devalued in our country that may I not find peace if I find a way to keep quiet in front of, despite what I'm saying. I can't. It's madness. My very humanity is challenged and devalued if I find a way to keep quiet in the midst of this madness. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. So yes, NSAS, but NSAS has ended them. They just don't know it yet. It has ended them. It has ended them. I don't know how this will end though, but it's ended them. You know, when I started out answering you on the NSAS thing, I said to you, it's like firing a bullet.
Yes.
And then expecting to call it back.
It's too late.
It's too late. It's not possible. The revolution will not be televised.
No.
And the beautiful part of the whole thing is that the Nigerian state is so unintelligent in its reactions. The assumption is always that brute force would break the will of the people and then get us to accept servitude. I don't know why anybody would imagine that that should be the thing to do, but unfortunately, I guess they are still using the same template they used for my generation, where they, all you have to do to break a riot in our time, to break a protest, just one person. They did it in my time in Lasso. Headshot. The first person that was killed in Lasso riot, Kunle Sholawo, he came out of the school library. He wasn't even part of those who were protesting on the streets. They shot him in the head. One single shot, marksman shot. The whole protest ended right there and then. It's not today. The Nigerian state is a well-practiced murderer. That's the fact. So this one, for them, it was just another one, and they thought the way it was in our own time that we would despise and it will end. The error they have made is that they forget one very important thing. Unlike in our days when we complained in silos, we now have gathering places. We talk to ourselves online. We can share ideas. We don't need NTA to speak to ourselves. Look at me and you talking across the oceans. We're sharing ideas. These are men who don't even know how to use They don't even know how to use their iPads. And they are the ones who are presuming to rule people who exist in virtual worlds. The Nigerian is a global citizen. He cannot accept serfdom in his own country. So no matter how much they try to repress the Nigerian, it's impossible. They are just going to continue to have all kinds of spiraling violence, and because it's inevitable that people will continue to ask this. How many people are they going to kill? How many people are they going to intimidate? How many people will they keep in jail? They don't build jail for goats now. They build them for human beings. Yeah. And when you send a man to jail for what he has, when he hasn't done anything wrong, look at the Dele situation. It's the entire Nigerian judiciary that is on trial. They just don't realize it. A man is facing you, from what to be clear to everyone, is a contrived charges. In fact, the unseriousness of the state in prosecuting Dele should be indicative enough for anyone interested in justice to know that the state is merely seeking to punish the man for his views. And we're in a democracy. So you find that all these things, all Dele did was to unmask Buhari. What NSAS has done is to unmask the entire Nigerian state. The ones in Lagos were the ones who used to shout about progressivism now. They were the ones with the progressive credentials. They could preach democracy at everybody. Their godfather was the one that was the father of Nigerian democracy, Nadeko, Super Lord, and everything. Everybody else, in fact, he even referred to himself proudly, is the father of Nigerian democracy. Yes. Look at what happened. Democratic Nigeria murdering its people after they had turned off the street lights and the billboard at the toll gate. I better with this story, bros.
See,
has unmasked the Nigerian state.
You see, from a lawyer's perspective, since we're on this protest thing, a lot of people think that there is a particular way to show grievance, to show dissatisfaction, and so they quarrel a lot with Omoyele Sowore and his methods. From a lawyer's perspective, what are the rights of the citizen to protest or to show displeasure with the government? What does the Constitution provide?
First place, the Nigerian Constitution is a useless piece of document. So let's first of all get that clear.
No, let me say internationally.
Even as useless as it is, it guarantees, at least it says that a citizen has the right to a freedom of expression. He has the right to peaceful assembly. There is nothing Dele did that could have been said to have been criminal. But the Nigerian state is not a democratic state. It merely pretends to be one. Unfortunately for the state, fortunately for the rest of us, not quite so fortunate for Dele, who is the one paying the price for belling the cat. That singular action by Dele unmasked Buhari. The Democratic General showed exactly how undemocratic and intolerant he is. If Dele had not, Dele's style can be impetuous and it can be quite brusque, and that sometimes means
Dele, you know this English.
My brother and friend.
No, but you know this English. You have to come down. Yes, just a step lower, brusque and the other impetuous. Please explain.
Okay, let me just say it this way. Dele is not going to speak to you in my own polite, nice. Dele will come at you and be like, give me my details for what it is, without the niceties of pretending to be polite. When somebody is naturally dictatorial and intolerant, when you go to him like that, you bring out his worst instincts.
Look at the guys who were singing with our flag, singing, sitting down gently.
There are two levels. Yele unmasked Buhari, that's one level. These ones that were singing national anthem and waving flags, when Yele wanted to join originally, they resisted him because they thought the Nigerian state only responds brutally to people who demand rights. Are you getting the distinction?
Oh, of course now, of course.
So it took those boys and those ladies and men, young men, singing national anthem and waving flag
and dancing Sorosoke.
That was when the Nigerian state was finally unmasked. So there are two levels to the
unmasking. Yes.
Yele unmasked Buhari. NSAS unmasked
the whole nation.
State.
Yes.
It's not just Buhari that is unmasked. It's the totality of the Nigerian state.
Oh yes.
It unmasked Tinubu.
Oh yes.
It unmasked Sanwo.
Yes.
It has unmasked everybody. So
all the governors
tend to be who they are not.
All the governors with the did you see the palliative? I couldn't believe it. If it was only one governor or one state, that can you imagine that all of them without exception, the ones that we didn't know is the ones they didn't discover?
Let's get something clear. When I was starting out, I said Nigeria has become a feudalized democracy where the governors are emirs and the houses of assembly, they are more or less like the council of elders, more or less. They don't have any say beyond what the governor says or what the governor's godfather says, as the case might be at any point in time. So what you have is that the Nigerian political class does not have tribe. They are detribalized. They don't know God. They have no religion. They are one. Whether it's Ojius or Kalu you are speaking about in Abia, or you are talking about Baba Onifila Gogoro in Abeokuta, Amosu, or you are talking about Rochas in Imo, or you go all the way up north and you go and make Gandola. They are all
the same thing.
The same family.
Do you see when there's a wedding? Do you notice when there's a wedding?
Exactly.
They all arrive. And is their, have you noticed is their children marrying their children?
See, this thing, it is unfortunate that it is the poor Nigerian that has inherited the hatred passed on by our rulers. They don't hate themselves.
No.
Business partners.
No.
One is in APC, the other one is in PDP.
And can switch anytime. Can switch anytime.
Switch. Some of them need to ask their PM, but which party am I in now? But that's the reality.
I will not mention a name, but I went to visit somebody, and the husband is the chieftain of PDP in the state, and the wife is the chieftain of APC in the state, in the same house. The same house.
It's business. They are doing good business. Unfortunately, the Nigerian, who is essentially the commodity of their trade, he inherits the hatred. He accepts the hatred they've given him. He embraces it. So they tell him, the Fulani man is your problem. They are trading with the Fulani man, but the Fulani man is your own problem. The Igbo man is your problem, but the Igbo man provided his son-in-law. They do businesses together. How can you be talking to a non-Christian?
So where?
The daughter just married her largest son.
Yes, so
they run the same. See, so all these idiocies about ethno-religious differences in our country, they are elite. They are the ruling classes' device for keeping the people divided, which is the only way to assure their own powers. Ultimately, Nigerians are more or less united by the commonalities of their afflictions. The poverty level is the same everywhere you turn. It is worse in the place that you want to blame. People readily blame the North for the problems of Nigeria. But the worst form of poverty, the worst phase of insecurity, everything that is truly designed to keep people impoverished are right here in Nigeria, but mostly up there in the North. So you find that the average Northerner is by far more afflicted than the Southerner. But he's unaware. He's as unaware as the Southern brothers of the commonalities of their affliction. And when the only time he's being talked to is when the Southern brother, whom he even sees and envies, because at least you have a vision of your future, he has been robbed of the capacity to imagine a future. So he even resents you for having the capacity to imagine a better tomorrow, which makes you unable to accept servitude, which he has been trained and designed to accept for centuries. So our issues, really, we must understand that, yes, we have all these difficulties, but each person must understand the uniqueness of their challenges. We have deep challenges in Nigeria. We have genuine grievances that should have ethnic nationalities falling for the error of demand. Because why I keep calling it an error is because in 21 years, yes, the superstructure is bad, but our main afflictors have been our own people. It's not been anyone else, it's been us.
Yes.
All of a sudden, I'm seeing my country decaying. Bros, what I am seeing is alarming. I don't know how other people, maybe because they have decided that they will take their children abroad and move abroad, but I don't see a life for my children outside of Nigeria. But when I look around Nigeria, I see that they are destroying the country. So to keep quiet, I can't. I'd rather die shouting, be imprisoned for shouting, be persecuted for, in fact, I'll be happy if they will do that. At least they will draw attention to the madness. They drew our attention to the madness. If it is my own consistent unreadiness to accept the insanity of this environment that will draw their attention to decide that I've also become a terrorist, since Nigeria deals more with right activists than terrorists, they prefer to brutalize right activists, kill right activists. Soldiers who cannot fire shots as Ambisa, they can shoot at Lekki Tollgate. Police who will run away from armed robber, he can turn his gun on armless, defenseless civilians. No problem now. It's okay. But at least at the end of the day, history will record that when they were going crazy in that place, some of them refused to be part of the madness. Look at that young boy, Mandate. The young man in Osun State, just 20-something years old. What the idiot chasing that boy around does not realize is this. Long after, what does he call himself? That their governor. Long after, Yetola or whatever he says he is. Long after he will be gone, that young man, his name will not be forgotten because he's standing for the truth. First question related to the video by Mazikan. See, ignorance is a horrible thing. And I hate confessing it. But I also prefer to confess ignorance than to speak in the nonsense.
Yes.
I will go and watch Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's interview with Dele Momodu. Interestingly, as I've mentioned already, you are the second person who is asking me. I had concluded in my mind that he had said everything I needed to hear. But apparently, I have fallen victim to the same error that I always deprecate. When you believe you've heard it all or you know it all,
yeah,
you begin to make the error of assumption.
Yes.
So I will go and listen and watch, and I promise I will definitely write on the subject, because now I think it's gotten to the now the gentleman who said Igbo protesting in Lagos, what utter bunkum. You're either a Nigerian or you are not. My first visit to the Lekki protest ground was on a Friday. I told people I went there 3 days running. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days in a row. On Friday when I went, there were Christians standing guard protecting the protesters who were having their Juma service.
Beautiful. It was
nobody remembered anybody's tribe. What does it matter whether you are Kurukuru or you are Ga or you are TV, whatever you are a Nigerian, you happen to live in the same oppressive environment. If you live in Lekki, is it by accident that people went to gather at the Tollgate? It's not by accident. It is a totem of evil oppression. That is what that Tollgate represents, which was why people went there. They went there because they saw it as a representation of what they were fighting. And the people who attacked them also attacked them because they wanted back what they considered their own patrimony. So we should understand how these things work, so that you are an Igbo man, you are wherever you are in Nigeria, and your rights should not be curtailed. So I think first thing first, yes, you'll find some stupid people finding the embers of ethno-religious differences, but that's normal. Every time the system is losing power, it falls back on its tried and trusted instruments. And those two are always front and center. Tribe, religion. Always. So I don't think it is right for anyone to accept that self-limiting, self-abnegating position that because I am Igbo, I should. So you should travel home to go and protest. Where do you pay your taxes? Where is your home? This nonsense has to stop. Please, let's forget that thing. You have every right to protest wherever you are. Beg. Then this beat. Panel of inquiry. Ebenezer. Brother Ebenezer, let me say this to you. I have practiced law in Nigeria 22 years. I believe I was called in 98 or 99. I can't remember it quite right now. But over 20 years conveniently. And my experience of Nigeria told me, or rather tells me, that if I took this case to court, before I might be able to get witnesses to get into the box, I would have spent a minimum of 3 to 4 years. That's the reality of the Nigerian legal system. They say justice denied is justice delayed is justice denied. Justice is always delayed in Nigeria. The only time you hear that a case goes through the court in less than 6 months is when our rulers are the ones fighting themselves. Well, like when Onogen was busy fighting Buhari, you see cases going through the Supreme Court and through the Court of Appeal in less than 2 weeks. Is that kind of speed is reserved for when they are the ones quarreling amongst themselves. When it is the poor man fighting himself or fighting them, the reality is that you spend a long time in the court process because it's designed to deny you justice. So when they now set up this panel, what the panel does is that it offers us an opportunity to engage them on their own terms. Yorubas have a proverb. They say, now when you know sabi fight, now you go they claim saying that the person papa frontage. Now there you don't want fight them. It is their panel. They set it up, yes. But we will take advantage of their panel to benude them. Shino Ogunlano is doing an excellent job before that panel right now. I know he was there today cross-examining the LCC MD. They can tell, the more lies they tell, the happier we are, because the body of evidence to impeach their lies are overwhelming. You can say anything you like. I can ask you, for instance, I say, Dr. G, are you a Chinese? Where are you from? You say, no, I'm not an Igbo man, I'm from China. You can say anything you like, claim anything you want, but the whole world is watching you and they will judge. But does it end at the panel? It doesn't. The panel is merely, and as far as I see, it is a strategic opportunity to achieve certain ends. One of them is to force the Nigerian army to account. Let men stand in the dock and answer for what they have done, so that when people are giving orders in future, they will think twice because they don't want to end up in the dock. If the people who killed in Odi, in Zakibiam, in Obigbo, the people who have been killing in the southeast, where crocodiles have been dancing and snakes have been busy doing palungo.
Yes, sir.
If those people had been forced to account for the lives that were taken extrajudicially, the ones who are in Lekki would have had a second thought about pulling the trigger. So accountability is important, not only in relation to the current victims, but to ensure that this madness ends. It has to end. Because if it doesn't end now, it will happen again. And then again. And then again. And this has been the story of the Nigerian state for the last 54 years. Insanity. Round and round and round in the same cycle. So the Lekki panel is important, if only in the fact that I'm seeing a general with all his swagger. He's standing before the Nigerian people, by whose grace he wears the uniform on his neck, and is accounting for what his men have done. He can tell all the lies he cares to tell in the world. We will show him as a liar. And not only would he be shown as a liar, he will serve as an example to all others who will care to fire their guns on defenseless citizens in the future. We are laying foundations. As minimal or as tokenist as it might seem, it affords the Nigerian people the opportunity to see power being held to account. If we were in the court, the TV cameras won't be there. The eyes of the world will not be there. The matter will not be as fresh as it is now. And don't forget, some people had worked surreptitiously to keep these victims away from this panel. So even though the same government set up the panel, the government itself is afraid of the panel because it never wanted the truth in the first place. So as far as the panel is concerned, I would say to everyone, pray for members of that panel. There are good men on that panel and there are good women. The head of that panel, for instance, Justice Ulufawo, I think. No, Okwobi. Justice Okwobi, excellent woman. She spent her entire time on the bench. She's one of the few to whom you will not find any corruption scandal attaching. I trust that she will do a sterling job. You have Rinu on that panel. She's a member of the generation that just protested. I expect her to do a sterling job. There is Sega, Shegun Awosanya. Excellent man. I knew him when I used to attend churches. Fantastic human being, upright. He's on the panel. And I'm sure that there are other eminently qualified men and women. There would, of course, be government appointees whose sole interest would be to sweep the matters under the carpet. But that's fine. But there are other members there. And whether they make pronouncements that we find acceptable or not, nobody has foreclosed our rights to approach the court. The International Criminal Court remains an option, is open. So there are sufficient mechanisms for holding the state accountable in this situation because the evidence is just overwhelming. But I'll deal with that in the... Okay, it's actually part of this, where the gentleman was asking about the CNN report and all of that. Here is the thing. Because we always prefer the imported products, we have helped to make CNN appear as the discoverer of the truth.
Like River Niger and River Benue.
Yeah, hey, Mongo Park, River Niger, no. It's the same thing all over again. Premium Times did a fantastic exposition on the NSAS protest and the Lekki chapter of the Nigerian war against his own citizens. They did a detailed report with pictures, with evidence of all sorts, detailed, long before CNN, at least 2 weeks before CNN. The only reason the Nigerian government is responding to CNN but conveniently ignored Premium Times is because CNN is telling the world what they have done. So they are worried about the...
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Good day, my brothers and sisters, my mommies and my daddies over there. Is your sister again, your doctor, your friend, your girl, Anointed Lady TV. Please, if today is your first time of coming across my YouTube channel, please do subscribe for me. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell. So each time I upload any video or each time I'm on live on YouTube, you will be notified. Thank you very much for always being there for me. Please do subscribe for me, and as you do so, God will richly bless you and meet your heart desire. Thank you very much. I love you all.